Hi everyone, my name is Ray Mears and I'm the Participant Pool Coordinator here at UMW. As you begin to formulate your studies, some of you might end up needing to use UMW's pool for participants. So that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today, how to set up your in-person study using the SONA system. To begin with, the very first thing that you're going to want to do is to get IRB approval. You cannot go any further without getting IRB approval because you're going to need to submit the letter at the end when you submit your study for approval. You're also going to want to make sure that you have a room reserved in advance before you start this process. There's an entire other video on it, but just as a short summary, you're going to want to go to the UMW Psychology homepage, and on the left there will be a little box that says room reservations. From there, click on the link that's for students, and it'll take you to a Google form where you can fill out all the information. Now, we're going to log in to SONA. You're going to want to go to umw.sona-systems.com. Now, the first time that you log in, both your user ID and your password are going to be the first half of your UMW email. This means that if my name was fake student and my email was fstudent@mail.umw.edu, then my user ID would be fstudent, and my password would also be fstudent. After the first time you logged in, you're going to want to scroll down to where it says My Profile and change your password to something a little more secure. Then, and only one person in your team needs to do this, you're going to click the Create a New Study button. So since we're talking about in-person studies today, you only need to worry about the first two options. It's most likely that you only have one part to your study, so you would only need to worry about the standard study button. However, if your study has multiple parts that you need participants to come back and complete, then you would click the relevant option here. So I already have a study set up that we can look at, but for your sake, you would click the button and then scroll down to where it says continue, and then it will take you to a page like this. So the name of our example study here is Facial Expressions in GSR. Sweet and simple. Then, when you scroll down to the brief abstract, you're going to want to give about one sentence that tells participants what your study is about. So, for our example study here, that's a study about the processing of emotional facial expressions. Then, for your detailed description, you're going to want to give participants what you're expecting them to do. So for the case of this study, in this study, participants will measure a galvanic skin response, small changes in sweat on your fingers. Now, the detailed description can be a little longer and a bit more detailed than this. So, if you want them to complete a survey, you can mention that you want them to complete a survey, or if you want them to do this specific task. You want this to be specific enough that they know what they're doing, but you also don't want to give away your variables or lie to them. So a good idea is to look at the language in your IRB and use this to guide you. Then, if you scroll down, you have a box where if you have any eligibility requirements, you could fill them in. For this study, you must be right-handed. Then, under that, for your duration, you're going to want to put this in intervals of 30, so either 30 or 60 minutes. Now, we don't want you to hit this number exactly, so if your study is anywhere between 1 and 30 minutes, you would put 30, and if your study is anywhere between 31 and 60 minutes, you would put 60. Now, please don't guess at this number, because you don't want to hold participants for longer than promised, but you also don't want to waste a credit by letting them go early. So make sure you run your study first so you know what your study time is going to be. Then for credits, if your study is 30 minutes, you'll put 0.5 credits, and if your study is 60 minutes, you'll put 60 minutes. And then for preparation, if there's anything you need participants to do in advance before they come to do your study, you'd put that here. So in the case of this study, don't drink caffeine 4 hours before the study. Then click over all of your researchers. It's a good idea to do this by last name, just so you make sure you get the right person. Then, select your principal investigator, and you don't need to worry about an IRB approval code. Scroll down and make sure that your study is clicked to an active study, because otherwise participants won't be able to view it. Now don't click on this study yet, as we're going to go through some advanced settings. So if you scroll down, you don't really need to worry about prerequisites or disqualifiers unless there's a study they should or shouldn't have completed before this one. You don't want to put any course restrictions, and you also don't want to put an invitation code. You don't need to worry about a study URL, but you probably want to change the participant sign-up deadline. So if your study is something that needs a lot of setup, if you need time beforehand, then you would probably want to put this to something that's a little more higher, so maybe 6 hours. However, if your study doesn't have that much setup, you can set this to something lower, like 0 or 1 hours. It's up to you. Then under this is just some research and preference things like, do you want notifications when participants sign up? Do you want notifications when they cancel? So then, finally, we're going to click the Add This Study button. And there you go, you've added your study. Our next step is we're going to add some time slots. So scroll down on your study's homepage to where it says View/Administer Time Slots. So you're going to want to click Add Multiple Time Slots. And then we're going to go through this. So your number of time slots is how many time slots you're going to run a day. So if I wanted to run 3 30-minute time slots, I would put 3. This isn't how many participants you want to run per time slot. And there's another option for that further down on this page. So then you would click the relevant date and leave it at that. And then the start time. So let's say I wanted my first session to start at 5 p.m. So then since I'm running 3 sessions and they're each 30 minutes, then it would be 5 p.m., 5:30, and 6 p.m. And then free time between slots. If your study requires a little preparation, you could change it to this number so there's a little more wiggle room between time slots. And then you would select your location from this list. Remember that you should have reserved your room before you start doing this so you can correctly put the room that you have reserved and you know it's yours. And then like I mentioned before, this is where you would put number of participants per time slot. So if I wanted to run 10 participants per my 3 time slots, then I would put 10. And then there you go. Our last final step is that we're going to submit our study for approval. So go back to your study's homepage. And then once there, you're going to click the Send Request button. And here, you don't necessarily need to put a comment unless it's something you want me to specifically know. But what you do need to do is press the Choose File button and upload your IRB. Then you would press Send Request. Please note that it doesn't give you a notification that it sent the request, so only press this once. It'll take me anywhere from 24 to 48 hours to approve your study, and I'll either say that your study's been approved, or I'll get back to you with if there's anything that needs to be changed a little, if there are any questions that I have, any of that. When it comes to actually running your study, please remember to check the roster of who has actually signed up for your study. Sometimes the people will go to the wrong room or get confused, so it's vital that you make sure whoever's there in your room is there for your study. If a participant shows up late, it's okay to mark them unexcused. If a participant decides to withdraw halfway through the study, you still grant them credit. You should grant credit to your participants ASAP, preferably right after they participate. Go to Studies, then view unaccredited time slots, and grant credit to those who showed up and participated in your study. If someone didn't show up, put them as an unexcused no-show. If you feel like someone is an excused no-show, email me immediately explaining the situation and we can sort it out. Now, participants have a specific number of no-shows that they're allowed to have, and if they exceed that limit, they'll no longer be able to participate in studies and will have to complete an alternative option. And you're all set. If you have any other questions or concerns, feel free to email me or stop by my office hours. Good luck with your studies!